What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the No Rain, No Rainbows podcast. Glad to have you today. We're going to be talking about a topic that I'm altering the title. At first, we were going to talk about hard times, but today's topic is Take Two.
This is our second time doing it.
This is our second time doing it. Andrej Suttles with me today, out from behind the camera, man. How's it going?
Brother? How you doing?
Doing good. So, yeah, this is Take Two. This is the second time we're doing this.
We only mess up on our episodes.
Yeah. You know what it is?
Literally, we only mess up on the episodes that me and you record.
You know what I think it is?
Turn me up. What's up?
Comfort. You know?
Ooh, yeah.
I'm comfortable with you.
Yeah, facts.
And
So
she's like, okay, we got this. Okay.
We chat.
But when there's a guest, I think there's more attentiveness.
Yeah.
And more of like the
professionalism.
The checklist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Where it's like kind of we just set up and we're like, okay, let's do this.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to mention on that because today's topic, we're going to talk about getting through the hard times.
Mm-hmm.
And I know our first time going through it, we've talked a lot about perspective and also the people you have around you, which this conversation can go anywhere. It might not go in that set direction. But one thing I noticed after we recorded the first one and we realized it didn't work, we both had 10, 15 minutes where we're like, oh, man, we kept looking back at the table like there's nothing we can do. Like it's
10 to
gone.
15. It was like an hour, 2 hours for me. I was sitting there hurt. I was like, well, we had some good nuggets.
We did.
I texted you. I was like, all right, I'm over it now.
Yeah. And I was like, I just
You were
breathed
like,
it out
I
too.
just breathed it. Yeah.
Well, the biggest thing about that, though, is because the topic we talked about our first time doing it was your surroundings, the people you have around you. And I think when you fall into stressful situations or you fall into a situation like what we just went through, we just recorded a podcast. It was about 30 minutes long, and then it was gone. And all that work, setting up, breaking it down, we didn't have time to do it again. So it was all for naught. Some people can react in a negative way. Some people could react in terms of, in that situation, it's really easy for one of us to point the finger at the other person, right?
Yeah, easy.
And
easy,
neither of us did that. We all kept
we
just
were
looking like, oh, man.
Bro, we hurt ourselves.
Yeah.
We hurt ourselves the whole time talking, but yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, I ran the situation through
We
in
both
my
looked
head.
at the audios.
and
We looked at the audios on the camera. Can we save it? Can
Yeah.
we save it? It's
Is the
gone.
sound quality
It's
good?
gone.
It was, yeah, it's.
But I remember as soon as I was like, so next week.
Yep.
When we record.
Yep. What are we going to do?
We got an episode we got to do.
Which, straight to solutions, right?
Yeah, straight up.
Facts number one for this episode of talking about Take Two or getting through your hard times is a lot of times we focus on the problem too long. We sit on the problem too long. We focus on what's going wrong, where it can serve us to be like, okay, this is going wrong. This is burning down. This is on fire. This is upside down. But what's right?
Yeah.
Let's start with what's right and build on that, because you can talk about perspective. You can literally change your perspective of being from everything's going wrong to, okay, but this is going good.
Yeah.
Let me grow this thing that's going good, and starve the stuff that's going bad.
One of my favorite poets. What he says?
What do you say?
You got to know it could be better and it could be worse.
Which poet is that?
Nipsey Hussle.
Nipsey Hussle.
Nip, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I always say that all the time, because every single situation we're in, you always have to remember that it could be worse.
Yeah.
Than what you have right now, it could be worse. 100% it could be worse. And 90% of the time, someone probably had it worse or has it worse. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what gets me through, powers me through, is the fact that it can always be worse. But there's that positive, that over the hill, or as we talk about it, the ship and the
crow's nest.
the crow's nest, right?
Yeah.
You got to know that crow's nest is up there. So
Yeah. So should I jump into that again?
I think you should tell the people, man.
Yeah.
You've been hiding it. You done told me a couple times. I'm just like
Yeah.
sitting there.
Perspective.
What? Yeah.
Perspective. All right. Anybody who's going through something right now, you might have some dreams, you might have some hopes and wishes, but you just can't see it. Your current situation, you just don't see how it's going to turn out, right? But imagine the captain that's steering his ship. He's in the middle of the water, and the water's rough because rough waters make good sailors, right? And he just doesn't know if he's going to make it to land. He doesn't know where the land is. He's driving through the storm, and all of a sudden, the guy up in the crow's nest says, "Land ho!" The guy in the crow's nest could see land, but you can't. Why? Because you're too low. You have to elevate yourself. You have to change your perspective. You change your perspective by elevating the being you are. They always say set goals that you have to become someone different in order to achieve.
Yeah.
If you set goals that your current self could achieve, quite frankly, your goals aren't big enough.
Yeah.
So if your goals require a different person, of course you can't see your goals quite yet because you haven't elevated yourself enough to see over the horizon and see where that land is. Get up in the crow's nest, man. Let go of the steering wheel for just a little bit. Elevate yourself to a new perspective and see where your goals are. You get a clearer picture of it and you become better. That's Andre dropping the mic. That was very gently too.
Gentle mic drop. Gentle mic drop. It's our equipment.
Yeah.
Hey, that's very like you have to be. I don't want to say outside of yourself to realize that, but you have to think outside of your current state. You have to like bring yourself out of yourself in that moment and visualize the kind of options, the paths available. So that's crazy you say that, and the entire time you're doing that, you're changing your perspective on your current situation.
Yeah.
Based off, okay, your mind may run those negative routes. Save them. Save it. See what you can do to change the course you're in now. Yeah. Knowing that all you have to do is lay a brick a day.
Just lay a brick a day. They always say the enemy of fear is action, right? A lot of times you can have fear that paralyzes you, or you have fear and you move forward anyway. They call that courage. You can't be courageous without the fear factor. Being courageous and being brave isn't about like, oh, they just do everything. Yeah. No, it's like, I'm scared just like you, but I'm doing it anyway. You know, things we're working on, things we're trying to build. I mean, this podcast. Yeah. Shout out to all the listeners out there. We see you, we appreciate you. But the success of this podcast is determined on how consistent we are. And we keep putting a podcast out every week, and people are like, oh, who's listening? Our people are listening. I can't give you the exact number how many people are listening. I haven't looked at it for a while. Because
facts. I ain't looked at the downloads in a minute.
Honestly, and it's also what the motivation is behind it, because it's almost like
thing. It's not like we when we originally started we did this for numbers. Yeah. We did this because we needed a platform that other people also use, that we can share, that we can allow other people to share their stories. Yeah. Knowing that it's bigger than ourselves, but there's people who don't realize that there's someone exactly like you going through that problem. Exactly. Until they hear it.
And they say, hey, listen, if you start a podcast or you start a business venture or something for other people's validation, you're going down the wrong path. We started this podcast, like you said, for these discussions, these stories, the service we could do. If there is one person listening to our voice right now and they walk away from this episode like, yeah, thank you. That's it. That's it. Job done. A brick. You know? Brick. That's it. Yeah, just one brick, that action. So I'd say so far, recapping where we've come is focusing on what's good, settling on the solutions, not the problems, changing your perspective to elevate yourself, and also just, start doing it. Take action. Lay down the bricks. For you. Yeah.
Do you think you can change your perspective on your own? Or do you need some sort of outside factor? Maybe, I don't know. What are you thinking?
Yes and no. Okay. So when I say yes and no, changing your perspective on your own, right? You could read a book that will change your perspective. Okay. Quite frankly, the author changed your perspective, right? Not you. The outside source, yeah. But your action, your self-reflection into wanting to grow yourself and picking up that book is what changes your perspective in the first place. So I think to answer your question, I think all change of perspective comes from somebody else, because the only perspective we have is our own. So we can't see someone else's perspective unless it's presented to us. But I think all change of perspective has to come with open-mindedness. I think that's the first step before anybody can have either themselves change their perspective or somebody else. You have to first be willing to receive it. If you're not in a situation to receive it, I don't think it's going to land. Like they say, you could bring the horse to water, but you can't make the horse drink. Well, how do you let the horse realize it's thirsty? How does the horse know it's thirsty? It has to figure that out.
On its own, yeah. That's good. That's deep.
What about you?
Question I had. I say you have, so the decision has to come from within, but I think, or however, that decision is normally kind of influenced from an outside source or experience or interaction, something like that. Yeah. Based off of maybe you see something you want that someone else has, or maybe you figure out what you really like to do, and how you want to do it. I feel that was determined based off your current situation. Like, you're not happy in your job, so you're like, okay, what do I really like to do if I was to quit this, right? So that type of, I feel like it comes from some sort of action or interaction, but it comes only when you're uncomfortable. I do say that.
Yeah.
Because if you're comfortable, you're not thinking about what's gonna change. You're
yeah,
you know what I'm
your
saying? But when
beliefs
you're
need to be challenged.
under that pressure, yeah.
Yeah, your beliefs need to be challenged. Your current state of viewing things needs to wobble a little bit, because I think the hardest person to educate or teach is somebody who, quote unquote, has it all figured out.
Yeah.
Like, what do you tell somebody who has a good bank account, good marriage and everything, and everything's been going smooth for them? How do you change their perspective?
Yeah.
Most likely, if they're not open to it, they won't, because their belief system has worked for them thus far. But I think it's when all of a sudden your belief system, the values and the focus you've put things in, when that's no longer serving you and you're not happy with the outcome, I think that's when you become in a position of open-mindedness, as into what else works.
What can I change? Yeah.
So a lot of people kind of like keeping the focus here that are going through a hard time. A lot of people who are probably going through some rough times, or they're pushing themselves. They're currently in a storm. You know, this is an opportunity for you to kind of take a look, reassess what you've done, audit your behavior, and find out what beliefs you can evolve with.
Yeah.
I don't want to say change, because I think there's always going to be a foundation of values and our personalities, but that open-mindedness and seeing, okay, where can I tweak this belief? Where can I tweak this habit and how I view such and such? And those little tweaks over time can start calibrating the life you want to live. I think it's going to be slow going, but in order for that change to happen, you first have to be in a situation or in a position of discomfort, of your current values and beliefs being
under pressure.
Being challenged, quite frankly.
I agree with you.
And a lot of that comes through books, personally, because I mean, especially in today's world, a lot of people don't voluntarily interact with people with different views than them.
Yeah.
Why don't we do that?
I like confrontation. I don't know.
Yeah,
I like the awkward moments. I like interacting with people, because whenever you interact with people and you talk to them, not only you have to be open-minded to their perspective, but it's a challenge to me to kind of figure out where they're coming from, and also try to compare that to how I was raised, everything I kind of went through, and why it's kind of different. You see what I'm saying? And that's my thing. The challenge for me is bridging the gap to figure out, well, where did that kind of because at one point we were like this, and then it went like this. So where do we start to
kind of split,
yeah.
right?
So that's the kind of challenge for me.
It's like one thing you said. It was funny. I think we were like playing game night or something, and somebody like looked at you like, Andrej, how do you not know this, or how do you not believe this? And then you just looked right back with a straight face, like, I don't know, educate me.
Yeah, facts.
Like,
show me,
educate me. Like, obviously, I'm ignorant to what you're trying to tell me about.
Yeah,
so
facts.
Educate
and
me.
I'm sure there's things that I know that I can make you feel ignorant at as well. But it's like give or take, right?
It's like I asked a buddy of mine. I was like, "Do you know who Gary Vee is?" He's like, "No, I have no idea who Gary Vee is." I was like, "What? You don't know who Gary Vee is?" He looked at like, "What do you mean? Do you know who so and so is?" Because he's a huge sports fan. He mentioned this coach from back in the day.
Back in the day. Yeah.
And I'm like, touche.
Yeah.
Touche. I don't know who that is.
Right.
You don't know who Gary Vee is? We're even.
And that's where I kind of I don't want to say I'm always open to learning something new, and something that someone values and has like on their like top kind of their list that they've done. You can tell they kind of care about it. I'm always up to learning what that is, because for someone else to value that so much, to learn about it and everything, that it could be valuable to me in the future. And also you relate to that person. There's something throughout that story or throughout your learning that you're going to be able to relate to no matter what. It's going to remind you of a story. It's going to remind you of something. And then, okay, bam, y'all communicate on that. And it's like, yeah, so you do kind of, it's similar to that. And you guys that's where you start to build that relationship. And this is male, female, anyone. Like you just build a relationship with that person. So I agree with that. And
how does having an open mind help somebody that is currently going through a rough patch? I think a lot of times, somebody can have a bad 10, 15 minutes that turns into a bad day.
Yeah.
flat tire.
Mm-hmm.
You mean probably can change a flat tire in 20, 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But that will ruin someone's day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so how can having an open mind prevent one bad occurrence in the day from having a domino effect to the rest of their day or their week or their month? Oh, it's been a bad quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Has it been a bad quarter, or did you have a bad couple days that just you let linger too long?
Yeah. I think it prepares you. Having an open mind prepares you. And I say that because I'm a firm believer that when preparation meets opportunity, that yields success.
Mm-hmm.
Firm believer of that. However, whenever you have an open mind, you're more prepared for what could happen or the potential of that. Charles told me the other day. Everybody, y'all know Charles Rush, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to OG. He told me the other day, he said, stop trying to run through the boulder. Take the 3 steps back and go around the boulder.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, all right.
Those steps back, though.
Those steps back.
It's hard for a lot of people.
It is. And that's where we were talking about it the other day, and he was like, your ego is your worst enemy. Ego is your worst enemy. And you've physically taken those 3 steps back based off how your ego reacts, how you feel that other people think about you, how you feel that you think about yourself, how you feel that, okay, am I really being unsuccessful, or am I not being successful right now and taking steps forward? I'm going backwards. That's not what I'm supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
However, like you just said, you have to raise your perspective. You got to take that jump and look over the rock.
Yeah.
Right? And you got to realize, oh, snap, it's grass right over there.
Yeah. I just got to back up.
There's grass on the side over here. I just got to jump over the rock and see it
Mm-hmm.
and realize, okay, maybe that me going through the rock is not the way.
Yeah.
Maybe me going around it is the way. Right? So I think it helps you be prepared for what's to come, but it also, like you said, making those change.
Mm-hmm.
It allows you to be more willing to make those changes. You'll make those calculated risks. Having an open mind, you're able to go through 3, 4, 5 options versus you're like, okay, well, this is kind of where I'm at now.
Mm-hmm.
It can only go this way. No, that's never the case.
Yeah.
So, if that answered it.
It did. I'm focused on those 3 steps back.
Yeah, thanks.
Because that's hard, man.
It is hard.
That's hard.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they don't want to take those steps back.
Like, I'm in the process right now where I'm potentially going to collaborate with someone else, and it's going to feel like I'm taking those 3 steps back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't work a 9 to 5. I don't work with, you know what I'm saying? I don't, like, report to anyone else. But in the grand scheme of things, looking back at it, it's like I have a chance to be a big pillar in this pretty big
Mm-hmm.
dominant company that's doing media, and it's like, well, dang.
Well,
You know what I'm saying? Like, do I take those steps back? What are steps back? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Am I taking a step to the side?
they're relative, right?
Right.
They're
It's up
relative.
to you.
It's all relative, and I think those 3 steps back, what's hard is most people, they're worried about how it's perceived.
Yeah, facts.
100%. Because you might take a strategic step back
Mm-hmm.
that
Doesn't make sense to everyone.
doesn't make sense to everybody. But, you know, what do you do with a slingshot? You pull it back before that bad boy goes.
Mm-hmm.
And they might be like, oh, you're doing good. But sometimes let me take these 3 steps back to get the tension on this band.
Mm-hmm.
And when I lift my feet, this thing's going to throw me farther than I've ever been.
Yeah.
And it all comes to strategy. So, you know, and kind of just having an overarching example, something that could be applicable to a lot of our listeners, you know, whether it's in business, in a relationship, you know, a lot of people would see a breakup as a step back.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a step back, or is it an opportunity for now you have more time on your hands? Here's the perspective aspect,
Yeah.
right? Now you have more time on your hands, and you can spend some time working and building yourself and falling in love with yourself.
Dude, I would have never met you, Charles. Never met y'all if I didn't break up, or if me and Steph didn't break up.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
And I just sit back and think about that, like, shh. Can you imagine where my life would be at right now?
Exactly.
Like, I'm doing the things that I've always envisioned myself doing with the help of a sphere, but I never would have met that sphere if I didn't, quote unquote, take the step back, or
Mm-hmm.
I see it as a side step. You know what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
don't have to go backwards. You can go sideways. Maybe you did a lot of planning that day. Maybe that wasn't your brick day. Maybe you laid that brick in the back of the house, but some wind hit in the front of the house and a brick fell in the front.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe you got better, but it was like you learned something else. You learned to go ahead and build that house from the back forward. Right? So there's positives and pros or positives and cons. I said positives and pros. You know, I'm a positive, optimistic person.
Andre straight up, he said, "I don't take L's. I either win or I learn lessons."
Yeah, straight up.
There's pros and positives.
Yeah, it's just like you win and then you win. So,
but that's the perspective of it, right?
Yeah.
You know, whether it's a breakup, you lose a job, or maybe you're pushing towards something and you don't know if it's going to work. You know, what's the worst case scenario? I'm always about, and Jess knows this, every time I'm doing things, I'm taking risks, I'm doing this, the other thing, but what I've always focused on was increasing my worst case scenario.
Ooh,
so like, if this stuff doesn't work out.
We were talking about your worst case scenario, and I put it to your ass, and he was like,
"You're right."
Bruh, you're right. And I was just like, bro.
Well, I put so much pressure on the success of things, right? But the worst case scenario, I always try and increase my worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And just like Bedros Keuilian, he said he's 1 or 2 decisions away from being broke, but he'll never be poor. You know, because he's built himself up to somebody who knows how to contribute to society and community and make money.
Yeah.
I feel the same. I feel that I have a set amount of skills that can allow me to make a living. I'm not going to get rich off of my set amount of skills yet, but it's enough to make a living. So I'm in the mindset of, okay, I've built myself to the kind of person who is resourceful, who has a toolbox of skills that can be applicable in multiple arenas. So if things were to hit the fan, I am useful to a lot of people. Because I'm useful to a lot of people, I'm not going to be obsolete. Don't be the VHS. Nobody pops those in the VCRs anymore. Or even worse, don't be a Walkman. Because you're a Walkman.
Done.
You're probably working in good condition, but guess what? They don't make cassettes anymore. You're obsolete. So you want to stay updated, always stay focused, grow yourself, and that's why we talk about getting through the hard times. You know, I'm really trying to punch home this topic because at the end of the day, it's perspective. It's perspective.
Knowing that it's supposed to hurt.
It's supposed to hurt. You said that to me, and like that sat in my head, like, oh, this is supposed to hurt. And the difference is, you know, for people listening, they're either going through hard times that they put upon themselves, or they're going through hard times of life just happening to them. But either way, the equation is the same. Hard times come. What are you going to do? You know, who are you going to be? It's an opportunity.
What I tell you with the pressure, man.
Yeah.
What's it do? Pressure, it makes diamonds, but it also breaks pipes.
It breaks pipes. So are you a pipe or are you coal? Are you going to be a diamond?
A diamond, yeah.
So before we finish off this episode, I know we were talking about some books, and I don't have the book on my desk here right now. You brought down a book called The Book of Questions.
Yeah. Chilling over there.
Yeah. So why was that book something you wanted to bring down and I guess relate to our listeners for something that can maybe help them get through their hard times?
So I love that book because it's so random. It's got over 200 questions in it, random questions, but it makes you think about kind of who you are and what you value and your opinion on things. But it's got some deep questions in there. It's going to make you think about things that you didn't realize you ever really should think about.
Yeah.
I remember one of the questions in there was like, if you died today and there was one person that, or if you were to die today and there was one person that you didn't say you loved, who would it be? And like it would hit you, you know what I'm saying? Like,
like who would you just come back
and say,
you
love them, but you just didn't tell them.
Yeah.
Throughout life. And I'm like, wow, that was pretty good. That's pretty good. Like, and then I remember the following weekend at church, I got the message was talking about how you have to have what you want to give. So if you want to, like, you have hatred, you're going to give that hatred out in the world. If you have love, you give the love. And in order for other people to give love, they have to have love. So you see how it just works. And so for me to have love and I give it to you, now you have it. Now you can share it. So he was talking about just tell the people you know, just, hey, love you, bro. Hey, just be safe. Love you. You know what I'm saying? We say all the time, like, this is like the national, like, I love you for the bros. People will be like, be safe, bro.
Yep.
Right? How many times are people like, be safe, bro?
Yeah. That or,
but-
you good?
Yeah. You good? Just, hey, you know what I'm saying? Things like
It's
that.
like if we left the party
Yeah.
or we were hanging out, and then it's like, let me know when you get home. If I didn't hear it,
Yeah.
you good?
Yeah, facts. Or I appreciate you, right?
Yeah.
Just tell them you love them, man. You know you love that man. Just tell them you love them, right? We don't hear it enough. So
You're right.
things like that, where that book will make you just go in any direction and make you think. But in the grand scheme of things, when pressure hits, you become a diamond.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you kind of understand diamonds, you know that they're actually not worth that much.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually what's around the diamond that is worth a lot more. The design, the way the metal, the way the gold is designed around that, right? So I feel like in turn that book helps you build up what's around that diamond.
Mm-hmm.
It helps you build up your values. It helps you build up your opinions, your goals.
Yeah.
It helps you realize what you like, what you don't
The
like.
prongs that hold the diamond up, if you
Right.
would. Yeah.
So when you are that diamond and you are challenged and they do put that little tester to you, you're real. You've been through it.
Mhm.
However, everything around you have a solid foundation.
It's solid.
So I like that book, man. It helps you think about random things, everything, dude.
I love it. I see you just walk
Right.
around. Hey, pick a number.
Hey,
between
pick a
1 and
number,
200.
right?
Pick a number.
Right.
So for
Really.
me, the book, it's my favorite book, The Alchemist.
Okay.
Pablo Cialo. Not sure if I pronounced his last name correctly. That's my favorite book.
Mhm.
You've heard it mentioned before, I'm sure. If you're listening to this podcast, chances are you've heard it or read it.
Yeah.
And that's just a book. The boy's name was Santiago, and it talks about this shepherd who goes in search for his treasure, and they put him through it, man.
Yeah.
They put him through it, but it's refreshing to read that story, and there's a lot of nuggets in there that are great for life lessons. But through the whole entire journey, he spends so much time off the beaten path and in the wrong direction, going towards everything else but his treasure. But to still end up there, come back full circle, was very rewarding and great to see. But I recommend that book to anybody, because I know whatever situation you're in right now, I know somebody needs to hear this. It's okay.
Yeah.
Like it's
Absolutely.
raining. But I said before, the rough waters makes good sailors.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, when your skies open up and the wind calms down and the sun is shining down on you, and you climb up to that crow's nest, you change your perspective, you elevate yourself, you'll be able to look out and see land and scream, land ho, with your dreams and aspirations, and finally see that you're going in the right direction, and then get back on that steering wheel, correct the course, and let's go.
Facts.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. The grass is greener on the other side. You know that kind of
Until you have to water it.
Right, until you have to water it, right? So in order for you to get that green grass, make sure you're valuable enough, right?
Yeah.
Make sure you have what it takes to keep that green grass up. You don't want to get over there and be hurt, right? You don't know who's swimming naked till the tide comes in, right? You don't want to be that business who's kind of faking it until rough times hit and the water sinks up, and then you're just out there with nothing.
Yeah.
Right?
It's funny. My
You
friends
ready?
used to always say, like, I need a queen.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, if you want a queen,
Yeah,
you need to be a king.
'cause, yeah.
You have to be a
Yeah.
king, and you have to build a castle.
Yeah.
If you want a queen,
Yeah.
you have to. Your queen is looking for a king.
Yeah. Straight up.
So you got to be a king. And all my queens out there looking for a
Right.
king, you got to be a queen.
Don't settle, yeah.
Yeah, you got to
Right?
be a queen.
Yeah,
Don't
be the
settle.
queen.
Oh, that's a whole nother topic we can jump
Don't
into.
settle.
We don't have time for that on this
don't.
podcast, though. But
Yeah, man.
what do you want to tell the people before we wrap things up, man?
It's supposed to hurt.
It's supposed to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell people,
Make it hurt.
just keep going.
Mhm.
Just keep going. I know it's raining. It's heavy. It's hard right now, but keep going. And to reiterate some of the points we had today, focus on the good.
Yeah.
If things are going wrong in your life right now and you're stressed, that stress isn't going to serve you. Focus on what's working right now and what you could build upon, and how you could use what's working to help what's not working. Focus on the solutions. Yeah, it could be worse. But at some point in time, you need to focus on the solutions. And that's where the next point comes into, is your perspective. Sometimes your perspective helps bring out the solutions. Your perspective of your current situation. It's
More
easy to
times than
say it's
not.
bad. But if you change your perspective of, well, how is this good? How can I make the best out of this? That allows you to get to our next point, which was get past the fear and start doing it. Because you're in a bad time right now. You're in a rough spot right now. The only thing that's going to make it better is action. So going through those steps and taking the action one by one. It's not going to happen overnight, but eventually you will get out of your storm and finally making that change. Make the change to your values, to your perspective on things, and really to your core beliefs on how you've been doing things. Because once your core beliefs gets challenged, that's when you're going to be open-minded enough to find out better ways to operate more efficiently and things like that. So I think those key points that we hit through this conversation, I hope if people can take that valuably and try and apply it to when they're going through a hard time, it should be able to serve them in a pretty positive way.
Hope so, man.
Guys, if you made it to the end of the episode, Andrej and myself, we appreciate you. And make sure you follow our Instagram, Rain into Rainbows. There's some underscores in there, but if you type in Rain into Rainbows or No Rain, No Rainbows podcast, we should come up on Instagram. You could also make sure to subscribe and also leave a comment.
Yeah,
leave a rating.
What you want to talk about.
Yeah, let us know how we're doing, because we want to keep bringing the value to you guys. So definitely reach out to Andrej. You changed your name. You're at the Empowerment Coach now.
Yeah.
So at the Empowerment Coach on IG.
Y'all
for
look
Andrej.
forward to that this fall. Be doing a low empowerment thing.
See?
Let's get it done.
You heard it here first on the No Rain, No Rainbows podcast. I think that's the first I heard of it.
Yeah.
The first time the people are hearing it. And also you can find me at Phaeton Forecast on Instagram, also on Facebook, Twitter, all those.
Yeah.
But as we say at the end of the episode, guys, everybody wants the sunshine, but they don't want the rain. But you can't get the pleasure without a little pain. Let's grow,
baby.